Hello and welcome to the program. This is The Verdict. Your host, I'm Patrick Soko. Today we have taken a slightly different twist to the program. We are not hosting any guest, but we have dedicated the program to the Electoral Commission of Zambia. As you already know, the ECZ is the most important institution at the moment as the country holds general elections that are slated for the 12th of August 2021. Now, the ECZ had a press briefing, and the press briefing brought out a number of issues. Remember, we've been hosting a number of guests on this platform. A number of questions have been asked surrounding the preparedness of the ECZ. Others have criticized the ECZ. Others have also backed the ECZ for the approach that's taken towards ensuring that the country holds free and fair elections. Well, for now, we'll cross over to the press briefing that took place Friday morning so that we can get what transpired.
Media personnel, staff of the Electoral Commission of Zambia that are present here with me today, ladies and gentlemen, and indeed all those that are watching us through various live platforms. On behalf of the Commission, I wish to welcome you all to this briefing and to the Electoral Commission of Zambia. The Commission remains committed to ensuring that we continuously provide updates on the progress of activities on our electoral calendar leading to the 2021 general elections. You will recall that in our last briefing, we updated you and the nation on the following issues. One was the aspect to do with the Technical Committee on mainstreaming of COVID-19 prevention measures in the 2021 general election calendar. Number two was the payment of nomination fees by aspiring candidates. And the last item we did update the nation was with regard to the inspection of the provisional register of voters. Today we are addressing the progress of the works of the Technical Committee working on COVID-19 prevention measures in the electoral activities. We're also looking at the preparations for nominations as well as an update on other electoral activities. So allow me to get into this, starting with the Technical Committee on mainstreaming of COVID-19 prevention measures in the 2021 general election calendar. The Technical Committee tasked to look at modalities of holding the 2021 general election amid the COVID-19 pandemic has developed standard operating procedures, abbreviated as SOPs, aimed at guiding stakeholders' conduct as it relates to the election calendar. The SOPs have been developed in due consideration of the following. One, the Zambia National Public Health Institute disaggregated demographic data and how COVID-19 has affected each population segment. So the standard operating procedures did look at demographics and indeed how that has affected the different segments of population. They also did take into account aspects to do with the legal framework and indeed stakeholders and structures that will support the cascading of the SOPs and related information. According to the Ministry of Health, crowds and public gatherings are among the super spreaders of the virus. To that effect, the Technical Committee has identified electoral activities that fall in this category and developed the SOPs accordingly. The following are the electoral activities for which the SOPs have been identified or developed. Number one, payment of nomination fees for all aspiring candidates. So we have standard operating procedures for this. We also have standard procedures for the certification of the register of voters. Presidential pre-processing of supporters, nominations, campaigns, voting, and indeed post-election review. As the way forward, the Commission will next week start engaging stakeholders such as political parties to share the results and indeed have them implemented. So we'll give the public the details of the SOPs after the engagement next week with the stakeholders. Let me briefly speak about the technical committee. It's very, very important to understand what this committee is and who is in there. This is a multi-sectoral committee whose objective is to mainstream COVID-19 prevention measures aimed at guiding the preparations and administration of the electoral process before, during, and after the August 2021 general election. The establishment of the technical committee follows the resolution of the 22nd February 2021 consultative meeting between the Ministry of Health and the Electoral Commission of Zambia in preparing for the general election amid COVID-19. Membership has been drawn from the following institutions, and I think this was shared with you in the previous briefing. And these include the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, Ministry of Local Government, Ministry of Education, Zambia National Public Health Institute, Disaster Management and Mitigation Unit, Zambia Police, Zambia Center for Inter-Party Dialogue, Media Institute for Southern Africa, Water Aid, and indeed ourselves, the Electoral Commission of Zambia. So it's a committee comprised of 11 institutions. The Electoral Commission of Zambia, of course, is leading this process. And like I've alluded to, we will be able to share with you in detail the SOPs once we engage with the stakeholders next week. But to emphasize that this has been concluded, all we are waiting now is to ensure that we share with the stakeholders, especially the political parties, and commence immediate implementation. And we call for serious collaboration on this aspect, because COVID really is real. I think we cannot say that anymore. We all know the gravity of this pandemic. Take a case in point of India now. They're conducting elections and a spike of cases in India. We hope that as a country we will not get to that phase where after the general elections we start seeing a spike in COVID-19 cases and start losing our loved ones. So we ensure that these are implemented, and we can only plead to stakeholders, especially political parties, to work with the Commission to ensure that this is done properly. Allow me to get to the aspects of nomination preparation. We'll start first and foremost with the aspects to do with the trainings, nomination trainings for district election officers. The Commission is currently preparing to receive nominations countrywide, as you may all be aware, from candidates vying for the positions of President, Member of Parliament, Mayor, Council Chairperson, and indeed Councillor. In preparation for the receipt of the nominations, the Commission recently conducted the training of district election officers countrywide. The training was held in all the 10 provincial centers from Tuesday 20th to Sunday 25th of April 2021. So this was done last week, I must say. The training focused on the legal qualifications and indeed requirements for a candidate to participate in an election. The qualifications and requirements are stipulated under Article 100, this is for presidential, Article 70 for parliamentary, Articles 153 for local government, and Articles 52 under nomination of the Republican Constitution, as well as Sections 30 and 34 of the Electoral Process Act number 35 of 2016. And I would encourage all aspiring candidates to please review these provisions as provided for in our Republican Constitution. We will also provide a checklist, which we'll also share with you, members of the media, in this regard. The following categories of district election officers have been trained. First category, provincial electoral officers. This is the number of officers trained is 10, because you only need one per province. Returning officers. This function is performed by the district electoral officers. And this is for mayoral, council, chairperson nominations. So 116 have been trained. This is in line with the number of districts. Returning officers, this is for National Assembly nominations. 156 have already been trained. Returning officers for councillor nominations, that is 1,858. This is in line with the number of wards. We also have technical support officers, 156. Assistant returning officers, 156. So far, total number of trained is 2,452 officers that have been trained for the purposes of nomination exercise. The names of all the returning officers will be gazetted in line with the provisions of the electoral process general regulations, and would encourage the media and indeed everybody, all stakeholders that are interested in knowing who the returning officers are, to look out for the Gazette notice. These will be published. And it's very, very important for aspects to do with transparency and accountability that you get to understand these processes, but also the stakeholders are aware of the individuals that will be conducting the activity. Allow me to also speak to the actual nominations. As you are all aware, as was shared in our electoral calendar, the Commission will receive nominations from candidates vying for all the 4 electable positions as follows. Election type, so presidential, as you are fully aware, this will commence from 17th to 20th May 2021, as was earlier communicated. Member of Parliament will be on 17th May 2021. Mayoral Council Chairperson, this is on 18th May 2021, and Councillor 19th May 2021. What will happen is that a list of validly nominated presidential candidates will be published immediately after nomination. Further, lists of successful candidates for National Assembly, Mayor, Council Chairperson, and Councillor elections will be compiled and availed to stakeholders once all the nomination papers have been received from the district. Allow me at this point also to talk about the pre-processing of presidential candidates. As you know, this is quite near in terms of the timeline. Article 100 of the Constitution provides for a presidential candidate to be supported by 100 supporters per province. This is very, very important for all aspiring presidential candidates. Article 100, says J of the Constitution, provides for a presidential candidate to be supported by 100 supporters per province. To facilitate for the verification and capturing of details for the supporters of presidential candidates, the Commission will facilitate for pre-processing of supporters between 10th and 15th May 2021. This was already shared in our election calendar. The pre-processing will be done from provincial centers in all the 10 provinces. Let me repeat that. The pre-processing will be done from provincial centers in all the 10 provinces. A timetable of presidential candidates who have paid in full the prescribed election nomination fee will be compiled and publicized prior to the dates of receiving the nomination. So once we receive the payments, we'll be able to come up with a timetable for the nomination. So the full payment of nomination fees for presidential candidates will be required to be made between 1st and 9th of May 2021. So starting this weekend. So from 1st to 9th of May, all aspiring presidential candidates are expected to make their payment in full. Thereafter, details of supporters of presidential candidates will be processed between 10th and 15th as highlighted above. So we'll receive the payment as proof, and thereafter we'll proceed to prepare a timetable for processing of the supporters in all the 10 provinces at the provincial centers. In order to enhance adherence to the Ministry of Health COVID-19 guidelines and indeed our own developed SOPs, not more than 20 supporters at a time will be allowed access to the pre-processing centers. So all the centers that were going to be established countrywide, only not more than 20 supporters will be allowed at a time inside. This is access to the pre-processing center. In addition, supporters are urged to ensure that the COVID-19 guidelines are observed. Please come masked up, maintain social distancing, all the 5 golden rules must be observed. Allow me at this point to talk to accreditation. Accreditation of stakeholders who may wish to monitor nominations will be done from 10th to 14th May 2021. Colleagues in the media, please take note. If you intend to observe, monitor, accreditation is from 10th to 14th of May 2021. The monitors for the nominations will be required to be sponsored by an organization which is active in the matters concerned or matters of governance. The application must be addressed to the respective district electoral officers for the districts in which the applicants wish to monitor the nominations from. So if one wishes to monitor from Lusaka, you would have to apply to the district electoral officer for Lusaka or for Chilanga, wherever it is that you intend to go and undertake the monitoring exercise. The application letter must state the name and NRC number of the persons to be deployed. Organizations applying to participate as monitors for the first time are required to attach a certificate of incorporation or registration to the application letter. So those are first-time monitors that we've not dealt with as an organization, as an institution, implying that we don't have the records in our system. So that institution will be required to provide certificate of incorporation or registration to that application letter. In order to also lessen the spread of COVID-19, only 2 persons per sponsoring organization will be accredited to observe the nomination process in each constituency. Not more than 10 persons at a time will be allowed to enter to monitor nominations at each nomination center. Please take note of those guidelines. These will also be available through our Corporate Affairs Department for further clarity. Allow me to get to campaign period and the campaign timetable. The campaign period will start on Wednesday, 12th May and end on Wednesday, 11th August 2021. We will officially announce this, the commencement as per practice, but do take note that the campaign period will start on Wednesday, 12th May and end on Wednesday, 12th August 2021. Oh, sorry, apologies for that. 11th August 2021. Candidates who successfully lodge their nomination papers are required to draw up a campaign timetable in collaboration with the district election officers in districts where they lodge their nomination papers. Please, this is very, very important so that there is equity in allocation of times, but also that you're provided with the required space for you to conduct your activities freely. The timetable is meant to streamline campaign activities amongst political parties and candidates, as well as to enable candidates to freely canvass for votes within specified areas and indeed time frame. A date for the compilation of the nomination timetable will be communicated in due course. At this juncture, allow me to also now talk to the Register of Voters. This is the compilation of the final Register of Voters. As you are fully aware, the inspection of the Provisional Register of Voters will come to an end on 7th May 2021. The exercise is still ongoing. I hope you all are aware of that fact. It's still ongoing. People can still verify their details using the digital platform, *214# or our online-based web platform on our website. The Commission will update you and the nation on how many registered voters verified their details at the end of the exercise. The Commission will thereafter compile the final register. The compilation involves validating updates, assessing the claims, objections, and appeals which were made during the inspection period. So we'll take all that into consideration before the certification. The certification of the final Register of Voters will be done on 9th May 2021. This is a Sunday, by the way. The Commission has no weekends. So 9th May 2021. The venue and time for the certification will be communicated in due course. Allow me to speak to a few other activities leading up to the poll, which are also critical for stakeholders to be aware of. Some of these include printing of ballot papers. The printing of ballot papers will commence after the period of nomination petitions, if any. This is in line with Article 52(4) of the Constitution, which provides for a nomination to be challenged within 7 days after the close of nominations. So we have already unveiled the dates for the nomination exercise, 7 days after which we expect to receive any petitions, if any, and if there's none, the Commission will commence the exercise of ballot paper printing. Stakeholders will be informed on the commencement and subsequent progress to be made towards the printing of ballot papers for the 2021 general election. Please take note of these for those that intend to accompany the Commission to observe the printing of ballot papers. Please take note that this is at their own cost. The Commission will facilitate all other logistical requirements for you to travel, with the exception of sponsoring you, of course. Recruitment and training of post staff. These are voter education facilitators, district election trainers, and voter education trainers. The Commission intends to recruit and train district election trainers, district voter education trainers, and post staff for the 2021 general elections. The post staff will be trained by the district election trainers from their respective districts, while the district voter education trainers will be engaged to train voter education facilitators who will be deployed to conduct voter education. I know it's a mouthful, but just take note that we are undertaking recruitments for the district voter educators, as well as the trainers, as well as the facilitators. These are people that go door to door to train or educate people on voting, as it were. The number of trainers, post staff, as well as voter education trainers to be recruited and engaged will only be determined after the completion of the final Register of Voters. One of the key aspects that the Commission has continued to do is to engage stakeholders in readiness for the poll. Allow me to mention that the briefing of stakeholders on poll day procedures will be undertaken in all districts at a date to be communicated, most likely in the coming week. But we will communicate this at the earliest possible time. But do take note that briefings will happen on poll day procedures in all the districts. Allow me to also talk to the provincial election support centers. These are very critical to the conduct of elections. And it's important that stakeholders understand their establishment. These are very, very important. In the past, unfortunately, we've had incidences where these centers have been misconstrued for other officers. The Commission will establish election support centers in all the 10 provinces for the purpose of easing communication between its field staff and headquarters on matters that may require prompt attention. The centers will also be used to timely collect information from the polling stations and disseminate the same to members of the public. These are very, very important, ladies and gentlemen. The Health Commission in facilitating its work, but also bringing about efficiency in information dissemination, both from the public as well as to the Commission. In conclusion, let me reiterate that the Commission will continue updating its stakeholders, like yourselves, on the various activities to be undertaken before, during, and after the 2021 poll. At this point, I'll say thank you so much, and I'll hand over to Corporate Affairs Manager. Thank you.
Thank you for staying tuned. Remember, the verdict has been dedicated to the electoral process and stakeholders in the system so that we provide a platform to our viewers to be able to make decisions in terms of how they can make their decisions when it comes to voting, how they can be able to be informed on various processes surrounding the electoral process. And the ECZ and other stakeholders will be engaged on this platform to ensure that people are abreast with information surrounding the electoral process. Now, during the same briefing that was being held by the ECZ, we also took some time to ask some questions that we thought were actually pertinent and that have been asked on this same platform by other. We've also asked other stakeholders. Do you also share the view that ECZ must release the electronic register and subject it to an independent audit?
I was going through some recommendations from international observers. I think the EU, the AU, and the Commonwealth, and even SADC. It is very clear. One of their strongest recommendations is that to promote transparency, to ensure credibility of this voter registration exercise, but also the register or the voters' roll, there is need for independent verification through an audit, and it gives confidence to stakeholders, especially when you discard the entire voters' roll and you begin building a new one. Sure.
With regards to make available electronic register, I'm not sure what is meant by electronic register. The Commission does make available the register after certification, and this will be done. We're certifying the register on the 9th. Like I mentioned, the verification exercise is still underway. It will end on 7. Once that is done, we'll go to the certification of the register, which will be made available. Stakeholders are free to procure the register. It's 50 kwacha per polling station. So if you want to get it for the entire nation, it comes to 608. Anyway, you can calculate. It's 50 kwacha times 12,161 polling stations.
You have interacted with previous administrations of the ECZ and the current ones. Would want to find, in terms of consultation, how are they faring? Are they doing enough?
We can say it's average. Yeah, it's average. But in the past, it wasn't the way it is. We've seen some bit of consultation. They've summoned us, or they have invited us to their fora. We've had some physical and also virtual meetings. But the weakness of this engagement is that they already have an agenda and they just inform you, and there's no room for intervention. And if you suggest, it will be noted, but you don't see anything being done.
And during the Friday briefing, the ECZ Chief Electoral Officer, Mr. Patrick Nshindano, actually provided clarity on these issues that have been raised on this platform. He also categorically stated that the ECZ as an open door policy, thereby stakeholders are still able to engage them on issues that they think are pertinent in as far as ensuring that the electoral process is smooth.
Relationship with political stakeholders, whether we engage them or not. I think the media are fully aware of these engagements, so you know that we do engage. I just announced that we'll be engaging next week. And this is a concern that we've always raised as a commission. I think it's an issue of inconsistency on representatives. And we have made a plea to political parties. It's very, very important that there's consistency. In one engagement meeting, you have this representative. For one reason or another, the other information that does not trickle down to the political party structures. And when other political party members speak, they'll say, no, the Commission does not engage us, which is very, very unfortunate. You will agree with us that the Commission has endeavored to ensure that everyone is brought to speed in what we are doing. I can give you a task. Please do benchmarking. It's very, very important. Look at the region, let alone globally. The extent within which the Commission has gone to engage stakeholders. Most electoral management bodies do not do what the Commission is doing. For us, we are doing this deliberately to ensure that all the stakeholders are informed of all the processes that we're doing leading up to the polls. This is in 12th August. Even aspects that are administrative, that we should ideally not be communicating to external stakeholders. We have felt it fit that we should do so. And we'll continue to do that as a commission. So please, let's collaborate. The elections must be credible, and as a commission, that is our mission, to ensure that we deliver free and fair, as well as credible elections come 12th August 2021. But we cannot do that on our own. It requires stakeholders to also come on board. Political parties have to play their role as well in this aspect. And we do engage with all stakeholders. Political party leaders do come here free. We do engage. We do have bilateral meetings. Those that are willing to come through, and we provide all the information necessary on a daily basis. Unless one does not really want to engage the Commission, then really it's not an issue of the Commission. It remains an issue of that particular stakeholder. So the short end of your question is that the Commission...
The ECZ also guided in as far as the nomination process is concerned at presidential level.
One of the things that we have done as a commission is to develop a checklist for candidates. I've gone through a draft as a media, and this will also be available through Corporate Affairs, and we'll try to put it up also on our platform for all those that intend to stand, to understand what is required of them. Allow me to just speak to the presidential one, because it's very, very important that candidates are aware, because the payments already are commencing with presidential this weekend. And we'll get into the processing of their supporters commencing between the 10th and 15th. So there is a checklist, which I hope that all candidates will be able to take full advantage of, so that when it comes to nomination day, you don't start running around that you don't have this document or this is missing and so on. So please reach out to the Commission. Corporate Affairs will be able to avail it to you. So one of the aspects that is a requirement, and this is both for the candidate and the running mate, is that you need to have the duly completed nomination forms with the list of required number of supporters on Part B. So we did speak already to the number of required supporters. So duly completed nomination forms. So these have to be completed duly. In addition to that, they'll have to do a duly completed affidavit forms. So the affidavit forms which they need to sign. And in addition to that, there have to be attachments to the affidavit forms. Attached grade 12 certificate or equivalent, are interpreted. Now we have guidance on what a grade 12 entails or equivalent. Attached certificate, a certified copy of one's NRC. Of course, you'll also be required to come with the actual copy of the NRC. But what will go on your file is the certified copy of the NRC, attached certified copy of voter's card, tax clearance certificate or proof of payment of taxes with ZRA, which is very, very important. You need to be tax compliant. Attached copy of declaration of assets and liabilities. All candidates must have this, both for the candidate and running mate. Number 3, those were attachments to the affidavit forms. So number 1, I talked about the duly completed nomination form, of course with a list of required number of supporters, which is 100 per province. Number 2, duly completed affidavit forms with those attachments, grade 12 certificate, copy of NRC, copy of voter's card, tax clearance certificate, or proof of payment of taxes with ZRA, copy of declaration of assets and liability. Those attachments to the affidavit form. Number 3 is a duly completed declaration of compliance to the Electoral Code of Conduct. And this speaks to some of the questions that are being asked this morning. Number 4 is a duly completed oath or affirmation form. Number 5, certificate of adoption. This is in the case that one is being sponsored by a political party. And number 6, a candidate photograph measuring 32 by 25 millimeter. And indeed, the last one is prescribed nomination fee. In this case, proof that you have been able to deposit the funds in the bank. We did avail the bank details. Please do come through the corporate affairs to collect the bank details. The Commission will not be accepting cash. All payments for nominations must be deposited in the prescribed bank accounts. This checklist has been done for all categories of elections. And like I said, we'll share, and it's available in corporate affairs. One can tweak this for them to ensure that when they come for nomination, no one is disadvantaged and fully prepared for that undertaking.
As we come to the end of the program, we also want to emphasize what the ECZ has preached about the issue of verifying your details. You can still undertake that process. It will go on up to the 7th of May. By dialing *214#, you'll be able to check if your details are correct or not, so that you can make remedies. And you can also utilize the online platforms which the ECZ has provided to ensure that you are not defranchised on the actual day of voting. Remember, the verdict has been dedicated to the electoral process and will continue to give you a number of updates in as far as the electoral process is concerned. This has been Patrick Soko, your host. Until next week, stay tuned. Remember, Kamwe TV is not just another channel.